Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this one I'm going to tell you how I got into a car accident, like literally, okay? 5 days after getting my license and a car. Now, in order for you to understand this story best, I need to go back. Now, I have talked about that on my channel before, but my grandma passed in a car accident, and because of that, for the longest time, I was not interested at all in getting a license. I think I was like perhaps 26 the first time I thought about getting a driving license. Now, bear in mind, most people have a license with like 18, 19. That is certainly the age that I hope my daughter would be when she get one. Now, I was 26 when I first thought about it, and then it took me a year to get from the place of wanting the license to a place of feeling like okay, I'm gonna do it. No, it took me a year to process, I guess, the trauma of losing my grandma to a car accident. So I'm 27 and it is the first try. Okay, now I don't know where you live, like how it is there, but here in Germany, like the driving license is divided in two parts. Now the first one is the theory one, and then of course you will have to do a practice one. Now in the theory one, you have to learn like about 1,000 questions, you guys. I'm not even exaggerating, and you have to learn all of them because you're gonna get 36 at the exam, but because you do not know like which one are going to be, you need to know the answer to all the 1,000 questions in order to be able to answer the 36 that you will get at the exam. Now, of course, there is a margin for error, but it is very, very small. I believe it is like 3 questions or 9 points, but I'm not sure about that. About that part, I'm not sure, so do not quote me on that, okay? Now, like I said, I was 27. I went to a driving school, and I registered, and then you get an app, and I was learning at home, preparing for the theory test, right? So I learned, and it was going good, and at some point I was confident in my ability to pass the test, right? So I went back to a driving school and I told them, I'm ready. But unfortunately for me, what happened is that at the time, the driving school didn't have like a spot for me in order to pass the exam. So I was like, it's whatever. Those days I was working, I started working again. I kind of stopped learning at that point. Life happened. I was over it, and lo and behold, 2 months later, the driving school recontacted me, and yes, it took them 8 weeks, okay, to find a spot, to tell me that they have a spot for me now and I can pass the test. But obviously at that point, like, I had forgotten most of what I learned. I decided to take the test regardless, which was a mistake because it cost money. But I failed miserably, and that kind of put me off the license thing for a bit. And I went like that again a couple of years without really, I had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to try again, but it was not really a priority, so I didn't do it. And then fast forward to when I turned around 31, I'm like, okay, I gotta do this now. My boyfriend at the time was really encouraging me. He proposed to help me with it, which was very kind of him. So I was like, okay, let me do this. So I joined another driving school this time around, hoping that I wouldn't have to wait 8 weeks for my spot, and I started learning with the app, and this time I was again very diligent and learn, all of the, like, I got to a point, okay, if you live in Europe or Germany, right, I got to a point where I could answer all of the questions like with my eyes closed, like literally with my eyes closed. That's how much I had studied those questions. Like, it was really ridiculous. It was like you have some video questions, and some of them, like, the video just started and I already knew the answer. Like, I didn't even need to watch the video to the end. That's how much like I brainstormed those questions, right? So I told the driving school that I felt ready for the test, and this driving school actually had even a stimulation test in the driving school that you had to do in order for them to check. I guess this is a better way in order to have more spots, because you don't send then students that are unready, right, to the actual official exam. So I had to pass first a stimulation test in the driving school, and I passed, and then I had to then they offered me then a spot, an official spot at the official test place, which is done by the government, obviously, and then I also passed there, right? And I don't know why, but for me, in my mind, I always thought that the theory part would be the hard part. I always thought, I don't know, I seen my mom drive like a G with one hand, and I always assumed driving was easy, right? I don't know why, but I always did. baby, okay, I was in for a rude, for a rude awakening. Okay, I was not ready for what was coming at me. Okay, now this was Corona time also, so it took forever to find, you know, I know that in America you can drive like with a family member and stuff, but that's not how it works in Germany. Here you can only drive like with a, you know, driving teacher from the driving school. Like you cannot just, you know, drive with whomever. I mean, I know that some people do it on the law here and there, but yeah. So, you know, finally the driving school found, you know, a teacher who was willing to teach me how to drive. And, you know, and the very first day, you guys, I started crying, okay? Like, I was just so scared, you know, I was crying, and the teacher was like, oh my God, you're gonna need like 200 hours. Now, bear in mind, every hour is 50 bucks, right? Like, he was like, you're gonna need forever. This is bad, okay? So I went home, and I was kind of discouraged and down, but, you know, I picked myself up in front of a mirror. You know, I kept talking to myself, I know you can do it, I know I can do this. You know, I kept reminding myself of people who I know, and this is not very nice, you know, who are not the smartest cookie in the jar, but who do have a driving license and do know how to drive. I'm like, you know what, ain't no way these people can't do it. And I can't, again, this is not very kind, do not do this. Anyways, so, you know, I kept learning how to drive, and, you know, I kept at it. I would drive like perhaps 4 hours a week, so 2 times 2 hours, usually, you know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But any day really, you know, the person who was teaching me how to drive had time. Now, he was wrong, you guys. I didn't need 200 hours. Okay, as a matter of fact, I needed just as many hours as most people. In Germany, they say that you need between 30 and 50 hours to learn how to drive, and I needed like 40 something. So I was very much like within, okay, the norm for my confidence, okay? So yeah, I learned how to drive. I could drive at some point, so we decided, you know, to go for the test. Now, there's a third person obviously who comes when you are doing like the official test for your driving license. Now, I did fail the first time, okay, but the second time I did make it. I got the license, okay. I was so proud of me, you guys. It has been a journey at this point, you know. At some point I even never believed I could make it, but I was really proud of me. I was happy going out with my license. It's whatever. And, you know, like on the day I made it, the person who came to control the test was an asshole, so I really, you know, couldn't make any mistake. Fun fact is, the day I failed the first driving test, the person was actually nice, but I made so many mistakes that he just could not give it to me. Anyways, that kind of irrelevant to the story, and I'm overthinking it now. Anywho, I got the license. I was so happy, you know. My mom was proud, and it was just really nice, you guys. It had been a long time since I had, to me, such a big, you know, achievement. First overcoming the mental stronghold of even getting, you know, started, and then finally actually getting the license. And my boyfriend at the time, who is a sweetheart, like, you know, bought me a car. Now, it's not, you know, the fanciest car in the world, but, you know, it's an SUV. You know, it is a car that is not more expensive than, you know, most people would pay for their first car. And, you know, I was riding around, you know, feeling myself like, I did this thing, I'm driving my car, like, I was happy, okay? Now, it's with day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. I struggle a little bit with parking, but, you know, it's going well. Now, day 5 comes, and I said this before, I have a daughter who lives with me, like, every second week. So, you know, I decided to, you know, normally her dad's bring her to me because he has a car. But, you know, now that I have the license and even a car, I was like, it's whatever, you know, I'm bring her around. So, I decided to drive my daughter to where my ex lives. Now, in my, you know, excuse or whatever, where my ex live is very like hard to drive. Even people who've been driving for a long time, like the streets are very tiny, so it's not easy. Anyway, so I'm driving. It is evening. I think it's around 7 o'clock in the evening, and the first thing that happened is that I wasn't sure whether it was a one-way street or not, right? I wasn't sure whether I was allowed to drive in that street or not. So I was kind of, you know, iffy, shaky, and the car was coming like in the other direction. So now I was really freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, like I was right, I'm not allowed to drive this way. So I saw like a small hole, you know, on the side, like a yard or something, and I thought, okay, let me just try to go on the yard so I can make space for this car to, you know, to pass, right? So I go, and this is the first lesson we're learning from this, okay? I go know, and there is actually enough space for him to pass, right? But what does, you know, perfectionist Manetta do? I'm like, oh, you know, there's a little bit more space. Now let me just go a little bit more, and then boom. Okay, so do not be perfectionistic, okay? It doesn't end well. And my daughter's like, Mom, we crashed. I'm like, yeah, I heard. Now, luckily for us, it was really close to you know, to where my ex lived, so you know, my daughter was able to get out get down of the car, because I had actually left my cell phone home, which was idiotic. And you know, she went and called him, and he came, and he was like, I knew you would crash. I'm like, yeah, whatever, thanks for believing in me. You know, and we had to call, like, my ex had to call a towing service, because the car was like, yeah, the car was not, I mean, it was not really messed up, but in the front of it, something had happened where you could not, if you turn it on the right, it will go on the left. If you turn it on the left, it will go on the right. Like, something happened with what we call in German Lenkung, but I don't really know the name is in English, but you could not drive it, right? So we called this towing service, and they came and they towed the car, and I was so down, you guys. I felt terrible. I felt like a failure. It was awful. Like, I hadn't, you know, had a load that bad in a long time. But you know, again, my boyfriend at the time was such a sweetheart, and he was like, don't worry about it, it's okay, and you know, whatever. And I even went on holidays then to Senegal, where it originally came from, a couple of days after that, you know. So it was, in the grand scheme of things, it was okay. But I really wanted to share this story because I know someone else who also got into a car accident, like, really, you know, actually, that's not her story. Like, she had a license, and she didn't buy a car for a long time, which is always a mistake, because you know, driving is a learning by doing thing. And then she got a car, and then she also got into an accident. So I don't think that it is something that is as, you know, as rare as I think. So I wanted to share that in order to encourage you, if you know, you've been through that, to tell you know, I've been through that. And you know, if you're a person who just got into driving, I would say, try to get an insurance that will cover, like, whether you get, you know, whether you're at fault in the accident or whether the other person is at fault. Now, it was really hard to get my insurance to pay, but they still had to, because I had one of those insurances where they had to pay whether, you know, I was at fault or whether the other person was at fault. In Germany, we call it call casco. You know, I think in France it's called assurance tout risque, but I don't know how it's called in English. But try to get one of those. Now, if you do get, God forbid, into an accident, these are the tips, you know, that are used in order to, you know, I guess, get past the fear of, you know, driving again. Like I said, after the accident happened, I did go on holiday, and I was gone for like 3 weeks. And then as I came back to Germany, I was really, because the insurance was not, you know, making any move, I had to call them and harass them, and they were like, fine, we're gonna fix it. And then, like, they gave me another car. I could never forget, it was a Smart, you know, for the time being, for the 2 weeks when they were fixing my car. And my first initial plan was, I'm not driving this car again. I'm not driving this car at all. I'm just going to keep it here, and in 2 weeks, when they give me my car back, then I can wreck my own car. But then I thought, you know, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, like, I think that's just going to increase the fear. I have to push past this fear, no matter how big it is. So I decided to drive with the Smart regardless. Now, what happened the first day that I was driving the Smart, and this actually happened on the highway, you guys, let me tell you something, your girl was finna die, okay? I was really about to die. So I was driving on the highway, and all the cars were like, they were like, pepe, pepe. I'm like, why are all these cars doing this? Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, why are all these cars, you know, putting their lights at me, making noise at me? What's wrong? And then at some point, I was able to get out of the highway, and another car was still trying to signal something to me. So I kind of put like the window down, and I'm like, what is it, you know? What's the problem? And he told me, you're driving with no lights, like all the lights on the car are off. And this was a Smart, you guys. I drove with a Smart on the highway without any light, like literally suicidal. Literally finna die, okay? Well, anyways, and I didn't even know how to put the lights on the Smart. I had to. This is why I adore YouTube, right? This is why I love it. I, you know, Google on YouTube how to put lights on in the Smart, and of course, you know, there was a tutorial about it, the same way there's a tutorial about everything. And you know, I was able to do it, and you know, voila, I was able to drive this car for 2 weeks, thank God, without getting into any accident. I got my car back, and then it was also really hard to drive my car as I got it back because of the dimensions, right? My car, as I say, is an SUV, a small SUV, so it's bigger, much bigger than this mall, so it was really hard to get into parking and driving, but I pushed through, and that is what I'm finna, you know, get this very long, I get it, you know, video at. That's the point of it, is that do not give in into the fear. If you got into an accident and, you know, you're lucky enough, thank God, you know, to be alive and that nothing happened to you, you know, do not get into the fear of thinking, oh, I'm just gonna give up, okay? I mean, at the end of the day, you did pass the test, okay? You did pass the test. You did get a driving license because you know how to drive. And I understand that, you know, it takes a long time. It takes 2 years at least to become an experienced driver, but do not give in to the fear. Actually put yourself behind the wheel again and start driving, okay? Slowly, of course, you know, carefully, but do it. Do not, you know, give in to fear, and just because that is just gonna make the whole situation worse. Anyways, if you made it to the end of this extremely long video, I am grateful and appreciative of you. Please do not forget to like, okay? Comment, let me know in the comment section down below, okay? You know, do you have a driving license? Are you trying to get one? Did you ever get into a car accident? You know, stuff like that, okay? Also, subscribe to my channel. I upload, you know, entertaining videos, sometimes videos that are, you know, valuable, where one can get some value of it, at least I believe so, if I can say so myself, okay? On the tube every single day, okay? Bye, guys.